Internet, my name is the Nether Gorgon, and welcome to the True Contenders for Big Brother 25. Wait, sorry, no, we're not in the Scaryverse anymore. What universe is this? Snottyverse? Oh god, why do I watch this show?
Oh right, because underneath the boot kicking and the slime splatting and Frankie Grande, this is a really deep and complicated show of social dynamics, political intrigue, and a whole lot of backstabbing. And boy do I love a good twist of the knife. It's Big Brother, been that way since they were throwing discs in the pool in season 2, and no matter how many times the vote flips in a single hour, someone somehow is gonna walk away $750,000 richer by the end. With the True Contenders, I usually give you all 4 names who I think's gonna win, and explain them away. But, well, with the longest season in BB history, I have decided to talk about all 14 players still in the house as of this video. So let's rank everyone based on how likely they are to win BB25, starting at the very bottom. Number 14, it's Heisem. Number 13. Okay, but for real, what hasn't really been said about Heisem in the episodes that I need to say here? Heisem speaks for himself. He's rubbed too many people the wrong way, and in a game all about social politics, you can't do that. Also, try not to win 3 comps in a row in the early game when you don't really need to. Doesn't help. A social pariah and a comp beast, Heisem is collecting these titles like Pokemon badges. Even if he survives the vote, there is no shot he takes this. Number 13 is Cameron. Because he refers to himself as daddy, and even with the live feeds watching 24/7, I find that way too intrusive. Also, just Cam rubs people the wrong way. He's not trusted by many in the house. He's shaping up to be a big target no matter how far he gets, and I don't think he's gonna win a jury vote. But I do think if he's not dealt with sooner than later, he will prove to be lethal. Number 12. Well, look at that. Color me shocked. I have Cam's number 1 buddy up next. It's Red. And I have Red higher than Cam because he's just a bit more likable. He's down to play an honest, clean game, which will probably get him jury votes. He's got more friends. And his beard is magnificent. That's gotta count for something, right? But Red is also slow on the uptake. He's not mobile enough or deceptive enough to get much of a footing with this cast, and I get the sense that he's more of a hanger-on down the line than a real contender. And see, here's the thing about Red and then also number 11. When I was a kid, the first video game I fell in love with was Pokemon Red. I picked Squirtle, by the way, of course. But decades later, now that I have matured a bit, I have to say that I have Blue over Red in this ranking. Yeah, that was a pretty forced segue. Blue is ahead of Red, but not by much, as she's number 11 and also in my bottom 4. Really, the best thing going for Blue is that she's in a heavy flirtmance with Jared. And yet, at the same time, that might not even guarantee that she makes it to jury. I kind of feel like with her that if the right people keep their heads on straight, she could go a little bit further as she's just a number, but otherwise, I don't feel too good about Blue's ability to play this game. She's just a follower who's behind a couple bigger players and is aiming for an early jury boot. Which I think you could probably use to describe a lot of people on this cast because it's going to be the same for number 10 too, although I do think there's a little bit more upside here. At number 10, I have Bowie Jane, the Australian DJ who is often forgot about on this season. Oh right, Bowie's on this cast. Who knew? Even the house guests sometimes forget about her, which actually isn't entirely a bad thing. It got her number 10 at least, but I have this weird feeling that she's gonna end up in like 5th place out of nowhere. Bowie barely knows the show at all. It's taken her weeks to get the basics down, but she's working with some heavy hitters, and really, as long as she doesn't get clipped by her own allies because they're overestimating her ability to play and be a quote-unquote snake, she absolutely could go the distance. Jen City upside, same thing goes for number 9, who I really like and wish wasn't this low, but I can't lie to myself and put them higher. It's Jag. Jag is a real one. I like him a lot. He is really likable. He is chill. He's got jokes. He's got charisma. I think he could easily win over a jury, but my issue with him is how painfully mid his game awareness is. He's the guy at the poker table who you clearly know when he has a good hand. He and his allies often pay more attention to what's in front of them instead of what's in front of everyone else. How does he fit into everyone else's games? He really wants to set up a strong core alliance and just roll with them, but that ship has sailed, and that's not the house that he's currently in. But he's still got some upside. I do think he naturally has an ability to play this game somewhat well, and I wouldn't fully count him out, even though he's a pretty big threat. And finally, we get to number 8, and I think a lot of people are probably wondering how this player hasn't already shown up yet. And I'm talking about Izzy. There's something about Izzy that I find, I don't know, deeply sympathetic about her that got her this high for me, and I think it's her sheer tenacity and drive to just excel at the game. Izzy is just all over the house. She's bouncing off the walls. She forms strong bonds with a select few players and has really found a comfortable spot with the most powerful players through the early game. On the flip side of that, however, I do wonder how far her relationships go if she were to reach the end. She is currently so far up Suri's butt and is kind of fueling some of Suri's worst bouts of paranoia, but I do appreciate how active Izzy is at just constantly trying to be one step ahead of the curve. It's a bit Vanessa-like, albeit more fueled on just pure emotion and much more of a follower than a trendsetter, but I have Izzy in the middle, and I just wouldn't count her out yet. Okay, and so with those players out of the way, we are now in the upper half, and let's talk about number 7. Let's talk about Matt. I don't know about anyone else, but I did not expect Matt to be this high in my ranking at this point at the beginning of this season. I have consistently been enjoying watching him, and I think for all of Jag and Blue's downsides as a player, Matt may just outlast them because he's so likable and not very threatening. And maybe a hot take, but Matt is not a strategist. He is just a nice guy who is open with a lot of people, and almost everyone underestimates his abilities. And I have been down this road before and have underestimated players with his social game and physicality, and I think he's just a bit of a dark horse. Maybe he gets scooped up as a number halfway through. You never know. But what I do know is that number 6 is impressing me a lot more than I expected, and shame on me for not putting more respect on Felicia's name. She is in my top 6 and almost a true contender, the top 4, and I can see a scenario where Felicia is taken to the final 2 and wins because her social game is simply better than her opponents. Kind of like if Memphis took Jerry and Jerry somehow won, or maybe Rennie in this case. That is what I'm envisioning. And given that this is an older skewing cast, it's the oldest average cast in the history of the show, the odds of Felicia winning have never been higher than ever. She's also in the thick of the strategy. She doesn't take people's BS. She is liked by a lot of people, and I think that she's got a fair bit of charm that'll go a long way. Which then means we are now looking at the top 5, and I like to arbitrarily cut off the true contenders at the top 4, so there's really going to be only one person in this group that's not going to make the cut. Although, if I'm being dead honest, I think the winner is going to be one of these 5 players. But let's rank them. The most waffling and switching up that I've done is between number 4 and number 5. And even now, as I say this, as I record this into my microphone, I am not sure of their exact placement, and I almost switched them up just as I'm watching the feeds and about to make this video. I have decided number 5 is Mimi. Unfortunately for her, I see her as a stronger player for an earlier season in the show's history where there's more structure in those games. BB25 is fast and fluid and flying by the seat of its pants, and Mimi kind of runs out of social battery pretty quickly. The good news, however, is she has her head on straight and recharges pretty quick, but on the other hand, she also wants a more uniform pecking order, and that's just not happening. Mimi needs to be more flexible and willing to open doors around her instead of closing them, and I need her to wake up to the current power structure in the game because she is not in the best spot. Her own closest allies to her right now are doubting her actions. That said, she's also not in the worst spot. There's still time. I do trust her instincts, but I need a little more action, otherwise she may get steamrolled by the very alliance that she should have been in the whole time. So we get to number 4, and that is America, the player who I kind of want to put at number 5, but I ultimately trust her agility to bounce around and sweet talk her way through the game more than Mimi, who's a little bit more rigid. Although for the short term that may actually bite America in the butt, she better hold on to that button. America is under the radar in a house full of activity, and that's actually forced her name to be in the limelight because she is clearly capable and sociable and doesn't fall into any concrete alliance right now. This means that those who do fit that formula are eyeing her. And that's a fair bit of people. In a week that should be pretty straightforward, she is currently facing a little more heat than I anticipated, and that's why I'm hesitant to have her here. But I do trust in a vacuum she has more tools to escape and excel than Mimi. I am still waffling, but you know what? Either way, I feel like one of these 5 people is the winner, so just whatever. Plus, not for nothing, clearly falling for a Wurtenberger has proven to yield good results. So if nothing else, believe in that. At number 3, I have Jared. And, you know, the less I say about him, the better. Jared is in a great spot with his mom, and he's easily benefiting the most from her gameplay. That little cheat code alone propels him high in my ranking, even if I don't fully trust his abilities or his judgment calls, or how he's basically spelled out to Blue that he's got this massive secret in the house. He gets in his own way too much, and on paper that shouldn't have him this high, but then I have to acknowledge how, when he is strictly focused on the game, he is able to play all sides, getting good with just about everyone, has everyone thinking that he's with them, and lay low, and he knows it. His position right now is one of the best in the house, bar none, and given that he's one of the most physically fit players in the power structure, all I'm left with is that if the boat doesn't rock too hard, he is likely not to fall out. And shocker, surprise, Suri Fields is in my top 2, alongside the brother of the first boot of Survivor 42. I mean, naturally. This is what happens when you drop some Survivor blood in the baby pool. Sorry, the BB pool. Suri and Corey are my top 2, and really, for me, this is just a game of either Suri runs circles around this cast until she gets the crown, or Corey manages to snipe her when she least expects it. Kind of like a Steve to Suri's Vanessa, which I do think is a pretty fitting comparison, given I have likened Suri to Vanessa mixed with Danielle Reyes, mixed with like a strange paranoia of Christy from BB21. Not that it matters, Suri is socially able to run laps around this house, just cause a whirlwind of flip-flopping, and still find herself in a good position going into the next week. She doesn't really need to win comps because that's not the name of this game. Plus, she has a massive advantage in Jared being there. And yes, for those wondering, I do fall into the camp, this is a little bit unfair, which may prove to be a hindrance down the line given he's a bit of a liability at times, but you know what, either way, Suri is as capable as I expected, and getting to watch her on the feeds is a blessing. But then we get to Corey Wurtenberger, who has told us that he has got Big Brother 17 Steve upside. A little more agency, a little more control, and you know what? I agree with him. Corey is young, but man is he sharp. He is in good with all the right people. He is mentally ready to tackle whatever comes his way. And more than anything, he is incredibly aware of how he comes off and his reads on just about every player and their position in the game. With, of course, the one massive hindrance being the connection between Suri and Jared, for which I can't fault him. Really, without Suri here, I think Corey would be my number 1 hands down. But because we don't live in that universe, I ultimately have Suri at number 1 and Corey at number 2. Suri is the sun of the multiverse that is BB25, and everything orbits around her. And until her sun goes out, everyone else is comfortably in the dark.
And that's it. Those are the Nether Gorgon's true contenders for Big Brother 25. And before you go, I want to ask, who do you think is winning this season? Who are your top 4? This is the longest season in Big Brother history. We have a long way to go from here. A big thank you to my patrons for all your support, for being the stars in the sky of my universe. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to touch up on the Survivor Wiki when you're prepping for BB26 next summer on your way out. And I will see you in the next one, once I reveal the Nether Gorgon was Julie Chen all along.
I feel like you're a child of God.
I'll keep being a child of God.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Claire.